are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, my name is Kevin Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano.
I'm Evan Closky,
host of Locked On Rays, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making the Locked On Rays podcast your first listen every day. And remember, Locked On Rays is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube at Locked On Rays. Also, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Rays, and email us lockedonrays@gmail.com. Typically, we have Evan Closky on the show on a Friday, but it's a special edition. It's a playoff Thursday. ALDS Game 1 Thursday show with 10 Tampa Bay WTSP Sports Director Evan Closky, as I said. And Evan, you'll be at the game, correct? I'm assuming you would be covering the thing live.
That is correct. And you all know with the playoffs, you know, the routine and the typical 5 days that you get the ball, sometimes you got to get bumped up a little bit when it's a special occasion. Sometimes you got to go on 4 days rest, and that's what we're doing right now.
That's right.
Yes, I'll be at the Trop Thursday. I'll be at the Trop Friday. Essentially, I will be at the Trop for all the home games, and hoping that if the team does, when they do make the World Series, then we'll get some road trips in there, whether that be San Francisco. I don't know if the Dodgers are going to pull this game out against the Giants. By the time you're listening to this, you know the answer. Atlanta, all those deals. Start booking your flights now.
There we go. I don't know if Ulises and I will be going on the road for the ALDS games, but we will be at 1, 2, maybe more of the games, right?
Yeah, it'll be fun. Definitely going to go there to Game 1, Game 2. We'll go together to Game 2, Kevin. Mm-hmm. So obviously, listeners, if you're there, obviously try to DM us or whatever, and we'll make our best to say hi. And it's gonna be fun, man. I'm pumped, and actually because I'm so pumped, I kind of I've floated an idea to both of you, and you very kindly said yes to it. And I'm excited about it, Kevin. Do you want to? What's the name we have for this thing?
Well, let me set it up like this. So the Rays, and I guess the Red Sox as well, they do not have to turn in their ALDS finalized 26-man player roster until 10 a.m. Thursday. So we're trying to figure out, and the last I checked, that roster has not been submitted or has not been revealed to the media. So we're going to have a little.
Cash said, by the way, yesterday, or I should say Tuesday, that they'll release it at 10 o'clock. They said they're going to take it up until the last minute.
9:59 and 59 seconds is when that thing will be turned in.
This is knowing the team that you cover. I told you this. I was like, they're going to keep that thing until 10 a.m. So we should do this thing.
You don't want to give the competition any added
leg up.
Yeah, you don't want to give them a chance to, swipe a data card or whatever it may be. But we figured, let's try to hammer this thing down. Let's try to see if we can guesstimate what the Rays will have for their 26-man roster. Of course, at least half for a majority of the guys are going to be set in stone, but there are some outstanding players that we have to figure out, are they going to have them on the ALDS roster or not on the ALDS roster? So Ulises, you have a little game. You have a little draft game that we should get into, right?
I do. So if you're watching with us on YouTube, this is going to help you. If you're not on YouTube with us, we'll start to, pause this right now, get pen and paper, and then follow along. Because right now on YouTube, you can see the screen, and we have decided locked in players. Okay, maybe I should have said locked on Rays players. But we've got 6 pitchers: Boz, Fairbanks, Kittredge, McClanahan, McHugh, and Rasmussen as locked in. Okay, they are going in the roster. And on the other side, we've got 12 position players. I'll go with last names so as to not bore you guys. Zunino Mejia, Choi Diaz-Franco, Lau Wendell Arozarena, Kiermaier, Margot, Meadows, and Cruz. I think we can all in Rays Nation say, yes, those guys are definite locks. Well, 12 plus 6 equals 18. So we still need
Math.
to fill out, thank you, 8 more guys to get to 26. So let's remember, 14 is the total on either the pitching side or the position side. But you can have any combination. You can have 14 and 12, 12 and 14, or 13 and 13.
Yeah.
So this draft, as you guys can see, Evan is the guest on the program. He gets first pick. Me and Kevin have to go rock, paper, scissors for this to get second pick. So are you ready for this?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do it. And Evan can be the judge here to make sure this is a fair fight. Okay? Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Oh, that's
Dang
clear.
it.
Ulysses.
Oh, I had the rock.
Oh, there we go.
Congratulations.
It was
You have
off
the second
camera,
pick.
but I saw that rock.
I tried to sneak one by.
I know.
Trying to be the Astros here, or the Red Sox, or the Yankees, or the Blue Jays, or maybe the Rays sometimes. Okay.
So here we go. So for your first pick, Evan, out of all these guys on the bottom from the pitching side that are not locked in guys, or the position players that are not locked in, who do you take as your first pick for this ALDS roster construction draft?
I'm just going to go with a super safe pick in my eyes, and I'm going to go with JT Chagua.
Very good. We're going with the Frenchman here.
Reason being, I feel like there's a 0.0% chance that JT is left off. I think even though he's had moments here, like he got squeezed in Houston, that wasn't fun. He was salty. I know in a couple of the more recent outings, he's given up a run to the Red Sox. But having said that, he has been a staple in this bullpen for that 7th, 8th inning sort of deal. And I feel like, he's a sub-3 ERA. I don't know how you can leave him off the roster when you look at the names of everybody else.
That's fair.
I agree. I don't know if I want him pitching 1-run, 9th inning, highest leverage of the ball game, but certainly there's absolutely a role for this guy. Really good stuff.
For my first pick and the second pick overall, I'm going to go with a guy who has been battle tested, and that's David Robertson. I need a guy who is not afraid of the big moment, a guy who has been under the lights, a guy who, when he sees the Boston Red Sox uniform, either at his home ballpark or at Fenway, he knows what that means. And that's Houdini, David Robertson. I know that he hasn't had probably the best numbers lately, but again, that mentality there is what I'm going for, that experience. And so I don't know how you can have so many rookies and in the starting rotation and not put a little bit of experience down in that stable. So I'm going with David Robertson.
My third pick may surprise you guys, but I'm going to go ahead and take it off the table. Jordan Luplow is making the 26-man roster. I hear reports that Chris Sale will be getting some action. I hear reports that Eduardo Rodriguez will be getting some action. I would like to have a guy that has basically an 800 OPS since the All-Star break and has had some moments in Fenway Park as well. Quietly has done a solid job in his opportunities with the Rays. Need that righty bat that can historically mash lefties. So that is who I am taking.
Dang. I thought that one was going to sneak through, and that was going to be my number 7. Yeah, no, I think Luplow's a great call. And if anyone out there, go look at the lineups when Eduardo Rodriguez, when Chris Sale has played. Who has played? Jordan Luplow. So just judging off the not even taking personal opinions into this, judging off what the Rays organization sees in Luplow and the matchups that some of these pitchers present, it seems like he is going to play. He's probably going to start. Don't be surprised to see him starting a couple of these games out of the gates. And, maybe there's a couple of games after that, who knows, they'll probably throw out Nick Pivetta and then how everything, Eovaldi might be ready for game 3, whatever it might be. I don't think Luplow is going to play every game. But if he's somebody that you think you're going to pencil in for 2 starts, he's got to make the roster. So, that's a really, really sneaky good catch.
Yes.
And I love Brett Phillips. This might be a situation where Brett Phillips doesn't make the ALDS roster, but then he makes the next roster. It's one of those sort of deals.
That's the thing is just because this is the ALDS draft, this doesn't mean that these guys are locked in for the ALCS.
There's a clean slate between rounds. So that's good. Okay, so 4th pick, Evan, your turn.
All right, so 4th pick, and this is. I'm going to say. Actually, I'm going to save it. But I'm going to go with Michael Walka. I think that they figured something out with Walka, and he's experienced. He's been there, and in a limited role, not a starter, in a limited role where he can just honey chuck it there for 2 to 3 innings, or maybe if things go sour in a game and he can eat up innings, whatever it might be, either which way, I think Walka can come in and do the job. You got to have a quick hook. You got to be prepared for bad Walka. But, I mean, it's tough not to be encouraged with what I've seen from him ever since they've eliminated a horrendous pitch from his repertoire.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's solid. And I think that's kind of where I'm heading towards too. I think by saying Shane McClanahan gets game 1, Shane Boz gets game 2, and then they say, well, Drew Rasmussen most likely game 3, but we don't really want to say. I think that's a pump fake for the football fans out there. Thank you very much. That's a pump fake.
Basketball fans? I guess you could use a pump fake in football.
Maybe a play action fake. Is that what you're looking for?
Well, there you go. That's whichever one it is. But the point
is, you know what they say. You want to hit those 3-pointers in the golf game. So
you got to get mulligans sometimes.
I love mulligans in golf. I love breakfast balls in golf too.
Well, the point is, guys, that's actually not happening at all. Drew is going to get the ball in game 3. It's Patino who has to be in that bullpen if things go sour in game 1 or game 2. That's Luis Patino. So that is actually my guy I'm going to take for my 2nd pick and 5th overall. I think that this guy, you need him, and he has been so solid in the bullpen for those 2-3 innings to bridge it to the setup and the closer. I think this is a guy that you're going to want to have, and also not only for game 1 or game 2 if they go awry, but for game 4 if you need to play it. Maybe again, I'm a fan of the Walka Patino piggybacking. I want that. So Luis Patino is my guy.
As I may have surprised some with the Luplow pick, I may surprise some others with this next pick. I am going, believe it or not, even against the freaking Red Sox, Ryan Yarbrough. I am putting Ryan Yarbrough on this roster, not to be used as a starter. Ulises' face right now.
Oh my God, dude! He's got the Red Sox roster has a 960 OPS against this guy.
I understand that, Ulises, but this isn't to have him come in after an opener, to have him work 3, 4, 5, and this is to work a string of lefty. Your face right now. Look, Travis Shaw's up. Okay. Alex Verdugo's up. Okay. Rafael Devers up. Okay. Just to be used lefty. 2 out of 3 guys in a string. And Yarbrough's been good historically in the postseason. I trust that a little bit more than Josh Fleming. And Yarbrough's shown a few more strides as of late, the last couple weeks. So that's my pick. I'm sorry.
So you trust Yarbrough more than Ryan Sheriff, Dietrich Enns, and Adam Conley, who can perform the same task?
So Conley, I don't think.
Conley might not be it might be on the day. I don't know. That's a tricky one. Okay.
I would find it very difficult to believe that Conley would be on the ALDS roster.
Here is why I was going to go with Yarbs with my pick, and now I got to.
Yes, go ahead, Evan. Back me up here.
All right. So here's the thing with the way that the Rays operate. Okay, if things go sour, they don't have the ability to really play catch up. They can try, but eventually let's say in one of these games, it's a blowout. Let's say it just gets away from them. Yarbs can go in there, eat the innings, and just take one for the team. Yeah. I mean, he is the oh crap pitcher. So I think you need one person who can be a bulk guy, where maybe in the third inning you're down like 6-0. McClanahan, Boz get rocked, Rasmussen gets rocked, and you throw out Yarbs, and you just say, screw it. Yarbs,
well, I agree with that.
5 innings, and I don't care what happens. We're going to chalk this one up to an L, and we're going to move on to tomorrow.
That sounds to me, Evan, like trying to kill two birds with one stone, such as like if you want to kill by saving time and money, that's when you got to use Rock Auto. I mean, that's the spot, because, why choose to spend 30, 50, 100% more for the same parts from a chain store? It doesn't make sense, guys. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer. They have everything you could ever need: brake parts, tail lamps, pump fake action, play action, motor oil, and even new carpet. Go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto part needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that all of us sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com.
We still have 2 more picks to complete. I do want to mention this, just piggybacking off of Evan's point with my pick for Yarbrough. As we have the roster constructed in a 5-game series, 14 position players, right? So you do need a guy that can give you, if it's a blowout game or you're down by 3, 4, 5 runs, all right, finish these innings up if you can. And I guess you could technically do that with Dietrich ends, but Yarbrough has a lot of playoff experience too, and I think that matters.
All right. Evan?
I'm actually really surprised that he's still here, and that's JP Fireisen. So I got to take JP. I think he's been just fine. He's pretty much my JT Chagua pick. I think he's just a very stable arm who you can throw in there as a bridge to the 9th inning. I think that if you honestly, you have JT and JP work together to get to Kitty at 9th. I can't say that with a straight face.
You created that nickname, and you're going to live with that nickname that you created for him.
I love him so much. Yes. But yeah, so I mean, JP, I think has earned it. I think I think I really want to find a spot for Lewis Head, but I think that JP's probably the guy.
Ulises, this is on you now. Well, this is on you. There's Nick Anderson, Josh Fleming, Lewis Head. Who else is a worthy candidate? Whistler, if he doesn't break his finger throwing a slider. Sheriff.
I'm glad to hear that Evan likes to reward people that earn their spots. I am 100% with you, and that is why that last spot has to go to nobody else but Lewis Head. That guy has done wonders in a dozen trips up and down AAA to the major leagues. A dozen trips. Everybody, imagine if you at your job they did that to you throughout a whole year. They just nope. Thanks for doing a great job, but now you go to triple. Thanks, but now you go back. And now you go back 12 times. I mean, the wherewithal, the mental stability, the mental strength that Lewis Head has basically shown everybody that has followed the Rays is amazing. So I got to award a guy who has a sub 250 ERA in more than 30 innings pitched whenever called upon. I know Kevin has had a really good point about Lewis Head. He has usually been in low leverage situations. Mm-hmm. But somebody's got to pitch those low leverage situations. And sometimes what Lewis Head can provide is 2 1/3 of shutdown baseball. So that's also needed in the playoffs. So Lewis Head, you take my 3rd and final pick.
Very good draft. One question here before we move along. Did any of you give any thought or consideration to possibly adding Taylor Walls to the equation as a defensive replacement, guy who could be a pinch runner, switch hitter. No, he's a rookie. No, he's young. But if something were to happen to Wander or Wendell or Brandon Lau, he could have been a guy that you could squeeze in there at some point.
Yeah, I feel like, yeah. I mean, he's on my top 8. He's my 8th guy.
Yeah.
But I feel like in ALDS, I think you have to focus a little bit more on arms, given that it's a shorter series. You gotta every inning matters. You can't let a game escape you, like Evan said earlier. So I think the more options you've got in the bullpen, that's what's going to win games.
Very good. Okay, so just to recap for the people that are listening on the podcast and not watching on YouTube, which you should, by the way.
Yeah.
I am curious to see how close we are with these picks to the actual roster. So, again, Boz, Fairbanks, Kittredge, McClanahan, McHugh, Rasmussen, Zanino, Mejia, Choi, Diaz, Franco, Lau, Wendell, Arozarena, Kiermaier, Margot, Meadows, Cruz, and then our draft picks were Chagua, Robertson, Luplow, Walka, Patino, Yarbrough, Fireisen, and Lewis Head getting the last spot.
That sounds like a damn good roster right there. I'm not going to
lie. Honorable mentions. I do think that Taylor Walls, that's a tough call, and I think you present a great point. Also, Brett Phillips. Not just because we all love the guy, but he is also a fantastic pinch runner. He's also a fantastic fielder. So if we're talking about defensive replacements, he provides that, another lefty bat. And then over in the bullpen, I think Sheriff was somebody that I was looking at just to give another reliever that's a lefty. And Matt Whistler, if healthy, that would be the other guy. Nick Anderson, I don't think is ready yet.
If I had another pick, I might have gone with Phillips. I think that could be, quite frankly, tomorrow morning, we could see him on the roster.
Yeah, no, and I wouldn't be surprised. And I feel like there are a lot of guys here, that Evan mentioned and you did too, that they might be on, and they deserve. Look, that's the greatest thing about this 2021 team is that you have too few spots for too many good players. Yeah. All of these guys have shown that they can be a positive output, and they can provide some of their skills in determine the game. Yeah. And Brett Phillips literally has won games on his bat, on his glove, on his arm. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Brett Phillips in the roster.
BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. With a new updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests, BetOnline continues to be the number one source for everything football. So head over to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Don't forget to use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. That is LOCKEDON. BetOnline, it's the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. It is where the game starts. Okay, Evan, let's get down to brass tacks. 5-game, or best of 5, I should say, against the Boston Red Sox. Who wins this series between the Rays and the Red Sox, and why?
Rays win in 4. First off, the Red Sox are a little bit limited without having JD Martinez. That's a big blow. That's a significant bat. That would be like if the Rays lost Nelson Cruz right now. Just a really stable hitter in the middle of that lineup. Both teams are even. I do believe that the Rays have figured something out about this team. They've won 11 of the last 15. I do think a stinker is going to happen in there just because that's the way the Rays play baseball. It's either great or it sucks. And it just happens. That's why I lean towards the Arbs. But look, they got Babe Ruth on their team with Brandon Lau against the Red Sox, the Beantown Basher, as I call him. And just looking at his numbers, by the way, he in 129 at-bats, 13 home runs, 31 RBIs, 36 runs. His OPS is like 1.2 something. .357 batting average. And then if we just talk about Fenway, he's batting over 400. I mean, against the Red Sox, this guy's OPS is .48. Like he gets literally in 130 at bats, almost 130 at bats. This guy has pretty much been on base half the time. That's mind blowing.
I love that nickname, the Beantown Basher. I'm gonna start using it too. No, and I agree with you.
Brandon, the Beantown Basher. That's why we get.
Yeah, that sounds like a serial killer name. So I'm gonna need some time to percolate on that one.
Evan makes good nicknames. Kitty, Beantown Basher. I like it. No, I agree. Raisin 4. I gotta put. I can't do. It's a gentleman's sweep, right? 4. 3 and 1. So, gentleman's sweep. I feel like there's gonna be a clunker there. At Fenway, it's easy to have clunkers.
Game 3.
Maybe.
We'll see. I just, we all like talked about, oh my God, like the Rays starters. And game 1, the Red Sox are throwing out Eduardo Rodriguez. Like no shade to Eduardo. I mean, he blanked, I think his last start, or no, it was 2 starts ago against the Rays. He won 4-0, and then he pitched again against the Rays, and the Rays knocked him out very early. But I mean, the guy has like a 4.5 ERA. He's got a good history, and he was a 19-game winner. But if you look at McClanahan's numbers next to his, Shane looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Chris Sale obviously is scary and has tremendous numbers against the Rays all time. But is Chris Sale still Chris Sale?
You just saw him, and it felt like there's some kryptonite around him now. He used to be kind of like this invincible guy. It doesn't look like he's that guy anymore. And besides, I know that Red Sox media was all hyping him up as soon as he came back, and because he was pitching well. But who was he pitching against? The Twins, the Indians. Like they're not juggernauts offenses. I feel like he also pitched against the Marlins too. So he was really facing these weak offenses. So there's something to be said about that. That's not the Rays. The Rays were this close, people, to having the most runs scored in Major League Baseball.
Yes.
They were just second behind the Astros. So I'll take Rays in 4. I don't want to say sweep because no, I'm not going to be that guy. So I'll say Rays in 4. Now, how about you, Mr. Kevin Weiss?
Now, let me say this I'm not trying to poo-poo on the runs scored thing. That is a legitimate mark, but how many of those runs scored came against the Orioles over the season? Like they put up a lot of 12, 14 spots, a lot of football scores there.
Anytime anybody says something I like that against the Orioles, I'll say this: the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Blue Jays also play the Orioles too.
That is true.
Where were they? Where are they in that list?
That is fair.
So they didn't hit against the Orioles. So I'll just say that.
So, well, the Red Sox, I guess they would go with Eovaldi for game 3, correct?
That's my assumption.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could see that maybe turning into a little bit of a clunker game. I will go Rays in 4 as well. You guys have come up with some very good arguments. But I could see, yes, we look at the pitching matchups and say, they're throwing out Eduardo Rodriguez. But I've also seen this Rays team, and maybe it was a different Rays team when they face some of these guys where Martin Perez blanks them for one reason or the other. So I could see a game where that happens as well. Evan, do you buy into, this is something I've thought about but haven't quite fully formed an idea, but maybe the Red Sox with Chaim Bloom at the helm and some former Rays players on the team, that they could maybe have a little bit of an edge or reverse engineer what the Rays do. Like we kind of saw it in the wild card game with the Red Sox and Yankees, where they took Eovaldi out after 5 1/3. So they're kind of trying to play the Rays game. But I think it's one of those things where, like, not trying to compare the Rays to Alabama football, but all these other teams try to hire offensive and defensive coordinators from Alabama to try to replicate what Alabama does, but they can't because there's only one Alabama. There's only one Rays.
Nick Saban. There's only one Nick Saban, Kevin. I know that.
But
I know that.
Basically trying to, we know what, having Chaim Bloom as the general manager and former Rays exec, that we know what the Rays are going to do, and we're going to at least have a way to mitigate or stop it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and the Rays have that answer too. When you play a team 19 times in a season, there are no secrets. You just can't just like poof in the playoffs create some magical formula that the team hasn't seen before. That's the thing about playing a divisional foe is you're entering the playoffs. Kevin Cash said, today, which is going to be yesterday for all of you. The fact is, Kevin Cash has their scouts. He was meeting with the scouts today, and they said that they've been traveling with the team for a month. They've been watching the Red Sox for a month, the Yankees, the Mariners, the Astros. They've been watching all these teams for a month. I think you're going to see a little bit of the Rays in the Red Sox because of all those facts that you said. But, what the Red Sox are going to do to mitigate the Rays, I don't know if there's going to be something that blows our mind. I think they know exactly what the Rays are going to do. I don't know how you necessarily mitigate it either, right? McClanahan's going to go out there. He's not going to see he's going to have 5 innings or something. Kevin Cash is not going to push the envelope. And I'm going to say it right now, everybody, right now. The Blake Snell fiasco from last year that everybody went crazy for? Cash is going to manage the same way. He's not going to let his guys go too deep into a game. He's going to do the same stuff that you see constantly throughout the regular season, for better or for worse. That's the way that he's going to do this thing, and it might get him into hot water again. It might work this time. That's the thing about the postseason. That's the thing that we do in March Madness. It's the thing that we do all the time in every single sport, is we amplify a small sample size into something being bigger than it is. So the Rays in our analytical department is going to argue that it's a small sample size. We have to continue to do what we're doing, whereas the emotions of fans and everybody else watching the game says otherwise. So just be prepared. Just be prepared that a Drew Rasmussen or a Shane Baz. A Shane Baz is going to go out there and just honey chuck for 6 innings, looking crisp, and then get yanked. Just be prepared for it.
Yeah. The Rays, I do want to bring this up before we end things here, and I do have a very, very brief trivia question as well because Evan Closky's on the show.
Okay.
The Rays will lose this series if blank.
The Rays will lose this series if they cannot find a way to close the 9th inning. That is the one concern I have in this playoffs. I think we saw it there with the Yankees. We saw it there with the Astros. Heated environment. The crowd was against them. They got their butts to the 9th inning, and then they were stuck. They just don't. Yeah. They just do not have the guy. They have guys, but when you go into a 9th inning in a playoff scenario, as much as the Rays want to look at things from a very analytical standpoint and look at a piece of paper and say, this is what we're supposed to do, we are robots. These are humans out there, and they do not perform the same way when they're playing the Orioles in May versus to what they're doing in the postseason. So, if they got a 1-run lead or a 2-run lead entering the 9th inning, I'm going to be sweating bullets. So that is my concern.
No, I have to piggyback on that answer because I feel like Shane and Drew and Luis, they're ready and they want to prove something. They're hungry, especially McClanahan, because his postseason debut didn't really go that well last year. So I think he's ready to show everybody who he is in a national stage. Now, that does worry me because I would say Kittredge is that guy or McHugh is that guy. But these guys, like you said, it's a different environment. And we saw it in Houston. I didn't like what I saw from the bullpen in Houston. Again, different mentality. They were not checked out, but they had won their division. It was a different feel. October is different. So I also agree with that, Kevin. I don't know if you have the same answer.
No, I agree. There's not a Fernando Rodney. Ooh. There's not an Alex Colomé. There's not a Rafael Soriano. There's not a Nick Anderson or even an Emilio Pagan. I mean, there's Nick Anderson.
But not the same Nick Anderson.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
So it does worry me a little bit, and I'm not trying to go back and say that the Diego Castillo trade was a mistake because he probably would have blown up at some point and has his own issues, but there is something to be said for having that true elite closer that you can count upon and go from there. So, and I've said this, that there might be a situation where you might have to kind of throw McHugh into that role if it gets to that.
Of course.
If Kittredge throws another hanging slider or whatever it may be. So, okay, very, very good point there, Evan and Ulises. Brief trivia question here as we try to get the playoffs off to a fun note. I have a list of guys who have the most career playoff home runs, and I'm going to make this very small and very brief.
Okay.
There are three players in baseball history that have at least 20 career postseason homers. I need all three of those names between the both of you. Oh, you're going to take it from Evan as our guest?
You're right. Evan, go.
Hank Aaron.
Strike one.
Bonds.
Strike two.
McGuire.
You're out of here.
Oh my
Strike three.
God. Well, I don't feel so confident about my choices.
There's a guy, and I will give you a hint. There's a guy with 20, there's a guy with 22, and there's a guy with 29.
Okay. Here we go. Number one, I'm going to go A-Rod.
Strike one.
Mickey Mantle.
Strike two. I will say, and this isn't even fair, but you're on the right track.
Okay, because I said, so Yankees. A-Rod, Mickey
Perhaps.
Mantle. Who could have had 20 home runs wearing a Yankee uniform?
Reggie Jackson.
Is that your guess?
Reggie Jackson. Good one.
Incorrect.
Damn it. Really? Nothing?
Derek Jeter with 20 and
Jeter had
734 plate appearances. Yes.
I never would have thought that Jeter had that many.
He played an entire season plus in the playoffs.
I know, but he wasn't like a home run guy. I should have just done it on quantities.
Yeah. Bernie Williams with 22 and 545 plate appearances.
Dumb question.
And number one with 29, briefly a Ray for
Manny Ramirez.
17 at bats.
Oh my God.
Ray's great. Manny Ramirez with 29 homers and 493 plate appearances.
I'm just going to guess Manny Ramirez for every trivia question now because you've had him on for the last three. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, we did a trivia question yesterday, and he was part of it. Evan, great job. Last thing, how can people reach out to you and find your work?
I'm going to be all over the Trop the next couple of days, starting tonight. Please go at Closky, WTSP. That's my Twitter. I'll be sending out tons of material there. And then we will be pumping that stuff on 10tampabay.com all night long, updated game stories and whatever might have you. And even beyond the Rays, Bucks, Lightning start on Tuesday. I cannot believe they have their banner raising ceremony already. They just finished the season 2 weeks ago. So you can also check me out on Facebook, Instagram at Closky, and I'm very good with responding, especially on Twitter. So don't be a stranger.
Yeah. Also, send some of your Bulldog journalists out to vet the Ebor site plan that the Rays are considering.
Ooh,
just throwing that out.
I like that.
I thought that the Ebor city plan doesn't get enough fans, according to the leaked video that came out.
Well, you know what's uncomfortable?
We need a whole nother podcast for that.
Not sitting in a comfortable 72 degree. I hate that. I just hate it, Kevin.
Well, we can give you Brian Ald's email if you want. Reach out to him personally. By the way, that there was a leaked video or two, which I kind of disagree with. I think it's kind of ridiculous that, everybody's got to get out their cameras and find this.
Can we just enjoy the moment?
But the actual venue that was hosting Brian Ald put out like a 10-minute intro clip. I don't know if it actually said it didn't. They didn't put out some of the risque things that he said, but I
wonder why.
Leave it at that. Yeah, there we go. All right. Thanks again for making the Locked On Rays podcast your first listen every day. And we will be back tomorrow. In the meantime, be sure to check out the Locked On MLB podcast.